Hey everybody, we are back with Midwest Chicana Chingóna podcast, and I am so excited about this episode. We are actually with some amazing guests today, and I also have an amazing co-host, Lucero. How are you today?
I am doing well. It is a little hot, but I am doing great.
And you're back in Kansas City. From the last time that we talked, you were in San Jose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm back in Kansas City. I've been back for 2 weeks, and so we're just trying to live summer as best as we can, safely, COVID-free.
Awesome. I love it. I'm so appreciative of you being here and doing this co-hosting with me. This will not be our last time. I'm absolutely sure of that. And we want to especially welcome our amazing guests today, Stephenie Smith and Rodney Smith. How are you all today?
We were on mute. We're great. Happy Friday. I know it's Wednesday, but it feels like a Friday.
It does. Oh my God, I can't wait. I'm like, when is it? This is like been the slowest week forever. So you both are the founders of Sophic Solutions. Is that correct? I want to make sure I said that correctly. Yeah. We are honored to have you here. I've been watching you from afar for a while. I met Stephenie on a platform, one of my first platforms with Edgar Palacios. And ever since then, I have just been in awe of both of you. So after I learned about Stephenie, I learned about Rodney, and I was like, wow, just two dynamic people doing dynamic things for their community. So we are going to learn all about that. Lucero's here to help me ask some amazing questions, and we are going to learn about the amazing programs that Sophic Solutions has for the community. So with that, let's go ahead and kick it off with Stephenie and Rodney. Let's hear your story. Like, how'd you all meet? How did this happen? Like, tell us all of it.
Well, first of all, thank you all so much. Thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Lucero, for thinking of us and inviting us. You can have all type of people. I was saying this earlier. So thank you so much for thinking about us. Let me see, what is our story? Well, I think it does definitely start with us. A lot of times when people see us, you usually see us together. Yeah. We are two separate individuals, but this is my best friend and partner in just about everything. But I grew up here in Kansas City, Kansas, so shout out to Wyandotte County. And I'm so grateful, Deanna, for what you are doing in and throughout the community, and especially how you're lifting up and having this bi-state initiative and probably, regional. I'm not probably, but definitely regional and national impact. But thank you so much, because so often we forget that we are stronger together, that we're one KC. And so from a Wyandotte County girl, I really appreciate how you've opened up your services and your doors and your love. So thank you for that. So I grew up in KCK. Shout out to my parents who are still in the Kansas City area, and my sister, and went to school here. Thankful to all of my teachers, my formal and my informal educators who just nurtured me and loved me, and my church family. H Street Baptist Church. And then so I had to get all that out.
Yeah. You were going way back.
So, and then I went on, I graduated from Sumner Academy, and then I went on to study at Fisk University, which was a wonderful, life-changing situation for me. My parents, who are my first educators, really set a good bedrock. But when I got to Fisk, it just reinforced and opened up so much more. And so I had so many loving professors. Rodney and I met at Fisk during my time at Fisk. And that really, my parents really instilled in me, and I watched them serve the community. So I always knew that was just part of how I was raised. And so I'm really appreciative of that. And my background is as a social worker. So I did some social work stuff. I worked with people who were part of the sex industry field, and just helping with behavioral change, people who wanted to transition from sex industry work and make that behavioral change. And so that really helped me learn a lot about what does it take And when people are ready to make a change, what does that look like? And so years of all different type of work. I worked in trauma informed care and did all kind of great things and had all kind of colleagues. I was able to study and grow a little bit in Ghana and really focus and learn about community mobilization and community impact. Was able to come back to the States and really begin to implement and learn and grow with community. And so it just led to a series of things that helped me be a better person and to learn and to be very human-centered in an approach. And that's complemented very well with who Rodney is. And so we fell in love and we just work together and just serve together. And it's a blessing. And 2 little people have come as a result of that. So.
Yeah. And I grew up on the totally opposite side of the country. I grew up in South Carolina, Georgetown, on the coast, right between Charleston and Myrtle Beach. So I grew up as a beach bum, if you will. Went to undergrad in Atlanta, Morris Brown College, which is a part of the Atlanta University Center, small private historically Black college, and then did graduate work at Tennessee, in Nashville, Tennessee State University, where I did a master's and a doctoral degree in education, administration, supervision. And, Stephenie and I actually met at a frat party.
Hey, shout out to my sorors. Hey, AKs.
I was hanging out with my fraternity brothers. And
I was with my line sisters.
Yeah. And so that's how we met.
We literally bumped into each other and started dancing. And we've
Yeah.
literally been dancing ever since.
Long story short. Yeah, we were fratting it up and sororing it up.
No, we was kicking it.
That's the way to do it. That's what I met my husband at a lowrider show. I still remember this day. He was standing on top of a car with one of those bull horns, and I was just like, "Oh my God, that's the man!" So trust me, it's like
there he is.
One of those stories you just never forget.
Your stories for sure give me hope. I am on the younger side, and I am still single, but it's all great. And you know what? Those lovely stories. It's gonna happen one day, and it's gonna be great.
Well, it sounds like and for us, we weren't necessarily looking. We just found each other.
That's right. We weren't looking. I know I wasn't. I was so excited about being young and, and kicking it and just enjoying life and learning. But I tell you, it is something amazing when you get a chance to meet someone and share your life with someone that is not about putting barriers in your way, but really creating these opportunities for you to grow. And so that's been a true blessing for me, and I'm grateful. It's really helped me be better. So
and with that, how do you both work together? How has it been? I'm sure because my husband works with me. He has his own business. I have work at Hallmark still, but we do the Latino Arts Festival together and things like that. And so I just know from my own experience that it's not always easy, but at the end of the day, it's like you built something together and you're working on something together, which is like the most amazing thing. So you tell us your story about how this all works with you two working together.
Yeah.
You go first.
The funny thing is, I don't know if you ever heard this, Deanna, but people always say you're not supposed to work with your spouse. You know what I mean? I've heard that from, not necessarily, I can't claim him as a mentor, but as someone who I look up to in the industry of education. He said that to us recently. And I was like, well, it's working out for us.
Don't say it.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it on TV. I mean, on
I'm curious.
social media. Yeah, I'm not going to say it.
No, that's cool.
Somebody we don't know personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
right. But we met him.
But we know him.
Yeah, we know him. Yeah.
I just love this. This right here just shows the dynamic, and I want to work with both of you like right now. So,
but we started the company back in 2007 when we were living in Nashville, and I was doing some grant writing and doing in the nonprofit world. Stephenie was working in the nonprofit world, and a lot of individuals were coming to us for advice. And we was like, well, we're onto something here. So it started out with us doing strategic planning, grant writing, just, helping organizations figure out their lane. Yeah. And then it morphed into I think it kind of morphed into some of our personal interests with regard to this idea of
social justice,
equity, social justice, diversity, and inclusion. And so that's how it has sort of morphed since we've been here in Kansas City. But it started, some almost
2 decades ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think for us, understanding we are different. We have this common interest and this common thread, but we have a different approach and just different personalities too.
Yeah.
And so I think what I have learned along the way is to be able to honor that.
Yeah.
Like honor who we are and how we are.
Yeah.
And of course, just like with anything, just like parenting, you find your stride, you had these growing pains. And so we've definitely had that. We talked to couples that ask the question, like, how are y'all around each other? It's like, well, sometimes we will be full-fledged, full throat yelling, but I mean, that's also how we, communicate and respond, and it's okay. I think one of the things, but I have such a deep respect for Rodney and what he brings and who he is, and I feel that he has the same for me, and so we just really work to complement. Just the other day, we doing a ton of stuff virtually because of the pandemic.
Right.
And after we had a session, he was like, you really did this, and and then I had my response and reaction, and then my hope was that the next time we did it, that it was better.
Different, right.
So we always trust each other that whatever we say, that when we go away, we'll think about it. And our commitment to one another is to really do better and be better.
Right. As long as we stay willing, this willingness.
That's the biggest piece.
To do this change. But I've discovered that, Stephenie and I are after the same things, but we are different elements. What I mean by that.
I'm fire.
She's fire. And I'm water. But you know what I mean? But we're going to change things, but she changes things immediately. Boom. Water is going to just keep running across the rocks, and solely the rock. You know what I mean?
Awesome. That is honestly like so inspiring to hear and so amazing to hear that like not only do you have like a great relationship with work and with the jobs that you guys both do, but as well as like it translates into your home and in personal, that I think it's super important to like be transparent about that. Could you tell us a little bit more about what exactly Sophic Solutions does and the role that it plays here in Kansas City? Because I know that before this, I had to kind of search things up a little. I'm like, oh, okay, like I know, I kind of know this. So I feel like our listeners are as well just want a little bit more detail of what exactly do you guys do?
No, I appreciate that. We try to make that easier by, but so Sophic Solutions. So first of all, Sophic, or some may pronounce it Sophic. And depending on if you want to take the Latin approach
Origins,
to it, the origin. But the root word is about being wise or clever.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is to really be able to walk with our partners, and we refer to our clients as partners, our partners, and be able to provide wise counsel. Or another way that we talk about it is third choice thinking.
Yeah.
And so we've really been able to move fluidly through a change management approach. So we are a change management solutions firm, which helps organizations and individuals navigate change through an equity lens. And so that's really important to us because we believe that equity has to be baked into the process. And in the work that we've done outside of our own firm and with other institutions and organizations, that has been a common theme, whether it was when I was in the fields of social work, really engaged in direct practice, and, whether it was working with our ex-offender population as they, many were transitioning back from the prison industrial system, or like I was saying earlier, working with women in particular who were transitioning out of the sex industry. It has always been about how can I support people in navigating change.
Right.
And Rodney as well as an educator, and he can definitely talk about that. But all of our work is really centered in supporting organizations through that change. And so what does that look like? Of course, training and development, those are really great methods or ways that we're able to create a common language. We believe that common language and shared perspective helps move towards collective impact. So training are really great ways, but it's really about the more long-term sustainable work that we're doing with our partners that is really helping organizations operationalize equity. And so one of our biggest projects that more people are probably familiar with is that we serve as the project managers for the Kansas City Race Equity Institute project, or the Racial Equity Inclusion Project. And that's the big 2-day training, Deanna, we were talking about. That is an opportunity. And there's been about 516 folks. Shout out to our REI community, people who have taken 2 days, 2-day all day, as we say, 2 days of their life to really understand the racial arrangement in America through a historical lens.
Yeah. And so, to back up a little bit about this notion of equity, and Stephenie talked about baking equity in. So we help organizations think about equity on a daily basis, because a lot of times, especially when we have crises in the community, people saying, "Oh, we need to have this conversation about equity." But our approach is to, no, you have to bake it in. And Stephenie often uses this analogy: if you're baking a cake, and you got to have the ingredients of baking your cake, and then you put all your ingredients in, it comes out of the oven, you put your icing on your cake, and you recognize that you've left 2 eggs of the 3 eggs that is required for your cake. You left 2 eggs out, and then you crack those eggs and you put it on top of this beautiful cake. So a lot of times that's how we approach equity. It's an afterthought. And so we try to make people understand that equity can't be an afterthought. It has to be baked into the process of what your organization does. An analogy I use is that you have to brush your teeth every day, and maybe multiple times a day. Right? So so too is equity. You have to do equity every day in order to do it right, but also we have to understand that equity in most cases is in direct relation to inequity.
That's right.
And we recognize that there have been inequitable, circumstances, policies, situations throughout our society, especially in American context.
So we do a lot of work with helping individuals and organizations exercise what we call that third choice thinking. And for so many of us, we get stuck in a binary thought pattern. It has to be this or that, up or down, right or left. And so we don't get a lot of chances to really practice third choice thinking. And so it's really awesome. We love to be able to sit with people in multiple levels and parts of the organization, including organizational leaders, in helping them really practice and deliver on third choice thinking.
Right. So
did that answer that?
That's a little bit.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It definitely did. And I think as an educator myself, I teach 6th grade at the Kaufman School. And so especially right now with just knowing that we had to make that a quick switch to virtual learning, equity was the main thing that we needed to drive ourselves with in order to serve our students and to fill and to meet that need where they're at. Not try to kind of like say, this is where we're at, that's where you're at, figure it out. It's knowing what that gap is, building that bridge, and then like inviting and then having whatever population you are serving or you are working with meet you there. And so I really resonate with all of that, especially just having been a student not so long ago myself, and then being an educator in the classroom. And so thank you so much for the work that you're doing, because I think it's super necessary to just, even if you're based in social justice or based in equity, you really, really need to kind of have that third eye to come in and say, here's what you're doing great, but here's how we can also make it better. And I think that's so necessary, because we continuously need to be changing and improving and just doing better as humans, as we can see in our world. Especially right now, it's been happening, but it's especially right now. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. I have a question. Look, seeing my friend Edgar pop up, and shout out to everybody. Once again, I just love these mediums because it just gives us a chance to connect in ways that we haven't been doing. So I love it. So shout out to everybody that's tuning in. But one of the things that we've been thinking about, and it's been a few of us over probably several months, is what does a better Black and brown connection take?
Yeah.
What is it that we can do to more intentionally connect and move in solidarity amongst our Black and brown brothers and sisters? And so I'm not suggesting that we can come up with all the answers now, but I just want to throw that out there because I think that this is powerful.
And it's a part of that.
That's right. And not because it's us as the individuals, but because it is showing that so many of our interests as Black and brown people are aligned in many ways.
Absolutely.
And so how can we work together here in this city, these moments? So that's for all of us.
Yeah. That's funny.
And
I was thinking that, I was thinking that I almost called Edgar's name before his name popped up. So one of my closest friends, if not my closest friend, so in addition to my work with Sophic, I am also an adjunct professor at UMKC in the School of Education. And my closest friend on campus is a gentleman by the name of Uziel Pacina.
Uziel, he's been on here. We love Uziel. Yes, he has been an amazing part of our Latino community. Shout out to Uziel. I'm so glad. See, we don't even know that.
Right.
Like, why don't we know this?
And he and I founded the Men of Color Campus Initiative at UMKC together. And we were the co-founders of the organization. Yes. And we still, in fact, I just texted him yesterday. We were just texting back and forth yesterday. But you know what I mean? He's become a really close friend of mine, somebody who I rely on. And, I hope that he relies on me. And I know that he does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that was all about being intentional about how to make sure. So first of all, I need to pause. Beverly McConnell, shout out. That's my mommy. That's who I was talking about earlier.
Mom, hello.
But I think that's a really great example, Rodney, because Uziel and Rodney came together because UMKC was struggling with the retention of Black and brown men.
Yes.
And so that just showed how there is alignment in the needs. And so imagine us as communities coming together and we stand against any crazy detainment and, all the things that are plaguing, because if it plagues you, it's plaguing me, right? And vice versa. How can we really practice solidarity? So, Deanna, I think you were going to say something about that, and I need to hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you are good. Let me get her. She wants to say hi to everybody, so we have to bring your mama out here to say hi. Yeah. So, Stephenie, you brought up an amazing point that I don't think we talk enough about. And I feel like a lot of us don't bring it up because we feel like we shouldn't. And that's just coming from a place in my place of where it's in Kansas City, it's always felt like, and this could just be me, but I've had other people tell me they feel the same way, is that there's this divide between us, right? Like it's Black community, it's Latino community, it's white community. And there's never been a real good sense of people working together. Myself being a native in Kansas City, I don't think I've ever known, except for the lowrider community, of Black and brown working together like they do. So when the lowrider community comes together, I have to even tell you, there's probably more of the Black community than there is of the Latino community, and they are family. They ride and die for each other. They're out there with their families. They do charities together, and it's like, in the art organizations I'm in, I'm like, why are we not doing this in the art, right? Where is this union?
Yeah.
And then I started talking, shout out to Edgar Palacios, because he's our board chair. And, I've been asking him the same question of, even in education, like, how do we make sure that we're not just going silo anymore, that we are literally blending? Because you're right. Everything that, a lot of what you're feeling is what we're feeling. Because and it's just hard. And so that's why when I connected with Dan Smith and Sharon Thompson, shout out to them, amazing Porterhouse, and they did not probably even know what the heck Chicana Art and Cultural Center was, but they were like, if you want to build a bridge with us, we're willing to build that bridge with you.
That's right.
Now, I think there have been some people that have said, you have to build that trust, which I totally understand, because there's probably mistrust, we just don't know each other and that type of thing. But I think we also have to give each other chances, and of course you kind of have to put yourself out there and vulnerable, just like I'm sure they're doing with taking this on with me. But I hope they find out that I truly, truly hope that this is a beginning of a very long period of it not just being myself, but the people that come in, with me, after me, will continue to build those bridges with the people that we are almost merging them with on purpose.
No, I love that. And I wonder, like you said, it's already happening in the lowrider community. And so I wonder, how can we continue to build and put that practice on that? So, I would love for people to begin to drop like different events in the chat group on the board to just say, hey, this is what's happening. And we want people from all the communities, from both of the communities. And I'm speaking specifically about the Latinx and the Black community. And so that we can begin. So the next lowrider event that is happening, that we can show up and come up in the next, Shirley's Kitchen Cabinet. Shout out to Michelle and all the great things that she and the Shirley's Kitchen Cabinet team, what we are doing together to really advocate for Black women. We know we need Latinx women right there next to us, because together our voices are stronger and better. When we talk about pay inequity and they talk about women, we know that white women are still making more than Black and brown women. And then we know that what Black women are making more than brown women. And so how do we come together? When we really begin to pull out the statistics, that's what it says. And so how can we use our collective voice? And that's what we have to continue to practice, is the collective voice, and not continuing to play these oppression Olympics about who has it worse. But understand, and Randy, shout out to Randy. Tools of the oppressor to divide us is the fear.
Who's been a great partner. So I love the fact that we're having this conversation, and I hope it's just a continuation of a partnership that we've been working on. And we just get better at it and better at it through the years, that the brown and Black community can really truly come together and really be impactful, similar to Randy's comments.
Because had it not been for Laura, just like the small piece of like Laura posting that amazing vulnerable post she did about REI, Lauren Conway had actually mentioned it to me, but I just kind of went on and I didn't see anything out there, and you just kind of like, okay, well, don't know a lot, but okay. And then when Laura did that, I was like, you know what? This is something that's very important. And if Laura is involved in this and she's really telling us we all need to do something here, I should do it. And I think it takes almost the point of inviting. I know people are out there saying you shouldn't have to be invited, you should just show up. Well, that's not always the case for everybody. And that's the case, I think, with a lot of us in the Latino community, is that if we're not invited and we don't feel like we should be there, we're not going to show up. And we're probably not going to follow you. We're probably not going to listen, because it's not for us, because we don't think it's for us, right? And I think that's just a stigma in Kansas City. I don't know if it's anywhere else, but at least in Kansas City, that's a huge stigma. And I think that's what is really holding us back from opening doors to going in, like meeting you and having this talk with you on this podcast. I did that because I knew, like Lucero, she didn't know what this was. I didn't know what it was, if it wasn't been for Laura and Edgar. So I'm sure there are like 99% of Latinos out there who don't know what this is and the amazing work that you do. And the fact that you do want to have Black and brown work together, like that is something that they probably don't even know. And it's like, okay, maybe they want to help too. It's just the small conversations that need to be had that we're not having.
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity. Thank you for sharing that, to explicitly invite all those who identify as Latinx, Chicana, whatever you feel like your identity is. We invite you and want you at the table, especially in this work towards racial equity. It includes and it involves all of us. And so this journey of knowledge is really important for us to build a common language together and a shared perspective together. So when we begin to build out our plan to advance, to navigate, to push through, and to transform the systems, that we're doing those things together. So please hear this as a direct, because I'm hearing you, sis. You are invited.
Yes.
Be my guest for it. And people like, for what? So once again, it is the Kansas City Race, Equity, and Inclusion Project. Rodney and I have the privilege to serve as project managers. Kaufman Foundation has been doing a brilliant job in supporting it through financing and paying for the training. So at this time, these 2-day trainings are at no cost to the participants. The seats have been sponsored and paid for. And then we have a collection of community organizations and corporations that show up as the food and location sponsor. So lunch is provided because we expect people to be there from 9 to 5, 2 days in a row. And we are together in a circle learning, right? We are really taking a historical analysis through a racial lens.
Right.
We're understanding, what does it mean? What does this racial arrangement mean in America? And how has it been that white people have historically been placed at the top of this pyramid, and that blacks have been at the bottom, recognizing that nobody comes in above white and nobody comes in below black. And so how does that impact the Latinx voice and community? And one of the things that was so powerful about what Laura, shout out once again to Laura Alvarez Palacio. Hey, come on. Shout out to her in her post, because, she talked about how she struggled and said, well, where are we? Where am I as a Latinx woman? But as she grew through the training, and that takes such great humility and courage. She grew leadership.
Yes.
She grew through that and said, okay, I understand, because I can still navigate and leverage my skin color, even as a Latinx woman, my skin color, and play in the middle of this racial arrangement.
And I think that's like incredibly important. One of the first things that, like, I'm echoing everything else, but one of the first things that I always tell people who are like new to this or are barely coming to this, who are people of color specifically, who are non-white Latinos, is that, one, there's going to be a lot of uncomfortableness. There's going to be a lot of undoing in your mind and your heart that you're going to have to do. And that's going to be difficult, and it's going to be hard. Knowing that, like, I've had the privilege of living in California and living in communities where a lot of, like, Black and brown, not just like Latino and Black, but like Asian American, East Asian, Middle Eastern, Indian, various places around the country where I've seen like what actually can happen. And I know that like that is not the case for everything. Obviously it's not perfect, but there's still just like, there's a sense of, okay, this is what it could look like. So let's continue going towards that. And specifically to kind of like what Diana is saying is that, yes, there may have been times where like we as Latinos, specifically just calling myself out as a light-skinned Latina, who we kind of assume sometimes like the Black and brown plight is the same. But I was just having this conversation with one of my fellow teachers, is that just because like I am the voice of something or I'm spearheading something that is going to be for the entire Black and brown community does not mean that what I say is what everybody else thinks. What I feel is what everybody else feels. And knowing, one, that there's beauty in the differences, that we're not trying to erase the differences that you have as a Black woman and I have as a Latina woman, and or like what Diana has, or like yourself as a Black male. Like, we're not trying to erase that. We're elevating that. And at the same time, recognizing that with those differences, there comes power, there comes strength, and therefore there comes unity after that. If we're not recognizing those differences, if we're not recognizing that because of my light skin privilege, I may be like, let things slide a little bit, but maybe because of my name, it's like an immediate, just like thrown to the trash situation. We're not going to be able to get ahead and do the collective power, have that collective voice, as a lot of people are saying in the comments, that we truly, truly need. And I've been thankful and I've been blessed to be able to like be invited into like a predominantly Black community. Cause like, if I'm going to be honest with you, I grew up mostly around Latinos and Asian Americans. Coming to Kansas City was probably, it was the first time that I was surrounded by majority Black culture, majority Black population. And I welcomed it. I'm like, I knew, like, even moving halfway across the country, it's going to be a shift. It's it's going to be different. I'm going to be put in my place a lot. And I'm thankful for that, because like, we're, even as adults, even as educators, we need to continue growing. Even as people who do this work, I'm pretty sure continuously you're having people above you or beside you just kind of checking in, just like giving you feedback and saying, this is what we could do better. This is how we can change the language to be more inclusive, or to be even more direct, that we really need that. We need directness. We don't need, sugarcoat anymore. So, yeah.
I love it. Another fire symbol. Thank you.
Ditto.
But I think it comes down, Lucero, to bottom line, if you are in a position of power, it's important for me to know that you have my back.
Right.
Yep. And I think that, the difference is that sometimes we give more energy to may make us feel like that is not true.
Right.
And vice versa. Bottom line, you need to know that if I'm, when I'm in positions of power or have access, that I'm creating channels and opening up to you. And that's why we have to practice it, because it could look differently. Mm-hmm. And if we don't see the cues, and if we don't know the cues, then we'll miss what was really meant to be open and what was really meant to be provide access. We'll miss it because it's not the same way that we may be used to doing it. So that's why we have to practice community. We have to be in community. So that's what I'm saying. When events happen, it's important. You know how much I learned by, we talk about some of the guiding principles of equity is to get proximate. Mm-hmm. And what does proximity do? It creates an opportunity for understanding. Perspective. Mm-hmm. And so if I come, and I keep using this lowrider event as an example, but when I come to a lowrider event, because I'm coming, I'm coming to a lowrider event, it's going to give me some perspective, and I'll be able to establish a deeper understanding. Mm-hmm. And that is how we communicate, and that's how we continue to build relationship.
Yeah.
Just that. Oh, go ahead, Rodney.
No, I was saying about the lowrider event. In fact, Stephenie's bonus dad has a lowrider, and we need to get him in the community.
Hey.
He's probably all
How
right.
did we not know this? How did we not know this, Stephenie?
Straight to the party.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll it out. I'm gonna have to roll it out. I'll ask him, can I drive it?
Right.
It's a truck.
Yes. And you're gonna have to bring him as well, because obviously we all need to meet. This is the thing. It's like, we don't know what we don't know unless we ask or we invite. And just this little piece right here, you already are connected with a piece of what we do and who we are already without even knowing. I would never know that, so I appreciate that so much. And I'm so right there with you, Lucero. What you said, it hits home with me. I'm a light-skinned, Mexican American. I in Chicana, which when I was here in Kansas City for a very, very long time, that was a derogatory name, yeah. And people just did not want to talk about it. And I'll be completely honest, growing up here as a Latino, it's hard. I felt, and I'm not talking for everybody here in Kansas City that is Latino, but I felt like our access points, we didn't have them. I think a lot of our community had a really hard time building up what they built. And once they did, it was just like, okay, you need to figure it out on your own, because I had to do and bust my butt to get here. You're going to do the same. And I really felt that when I was trying to build up the Latino Arts Foundation. I felt alone. A shout out to Irene Carrillo at El Centro for literally holding my hand through all of this as a Latina CEO. And without her, I would not even be in this space right now. It doesn't even matter about Queer Eye. They would never know anything about me because I would never have my program, because she opened her doors to somebody she did not know. But the thing is she knew that I needed help and I needed a mentor, and she did it. And I just feel like we don't have enough of that. And I say that all the time, there's so many Deannas out there right now doing the work I'm doing, whether that's in whatever, but we're not reaching in enough to grab those people and bring them up, at least in the Latino community. And I think that's why it's been my mission through this, is to ensure I have people on here like Lucero, like Lori, like Chato, and ensuring that you're seeing this person because you need to see this person. They are doing phenomenal things that you do not know about and you should know about. And how do you start inviting them to your events? How do you start inviting them to your panels? Because just because you know my name and know my face does not mean I am the right person to be on that panel just because I'm a Latina person of color. And that has happened so many times, Stephenie and Rodney. It is almost, I've talked to people who have been very disgusted by it, and I hadn't been, because I hadn't been asked either. It's been just a year or so that I've been asked, but now I'm really starting to see the pattern, and I'm like, this is not okay. Yeah. And how do you break that stigma of stop asking the same people and stop asking those same people to invite the people because you don't want to reach out to anyone in their community? There is no reason that an organization that's been around for 25 years does not know anybody in the Black community except for 2 people.
That's right.
There is no reason for an art organization to know anybody but 2 Latinos and nobody else. And they don't have anybody sitting on their board but those 2 people. It's like, stop it. And so how do you, Rodney and Stephenie, get to a point to where that can start to change?
Yeah. I think it starts with this conversation. And even as we're talking, I'm thinking about people that
we were just talking about this today.
We were just talking about this today. We were talking about this today. That sometimes we get into these ruts, if you will, and we ask the same people to be a part of the discussion. I mean, even in a local setting, in a regional setting, even in a national setting, you have the same voices over and over again. Yeah. But to your point, Deanna, it resonates with me that we have to do the work of finding people who has expertise that can lend their voice to the conversation. I'm thinking about, I don't know if you even, I'm just thinking about people that I know that needs to be on your show that's doing powerful work. Like one of my mentees, young lady named Alex Perez Estrada. I don't know if you know Alex, but Alex is doing wonderful work. She's been doing wonderful work in the community.
Sandy Thornhill, Deanna Sappho.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Of course, you already know Laura and the work that she's doing.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking about people that needs to be on your show so the community can know.
Danielle Randall.
You know what I mean?
I'm sorry. I can just.
You know what I mean? Nico Wiggins.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Some powerful young people that are doing some amazing.
Can I just shout out?
Go ahead.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt you real quick. When you said Nico, because let me just tell you right now, and I've already made this announcement on Instagram. Nico and I have been working on a documentary about Chicano lifestyle here in Kansas City. Now, Nico does not know anything about Chicano lifestyle, but he trusts me enough to be like, Deanna, I know you got passion and you can do this. He's like, I'm not a writer, but I have built this play. My daughters keep saying, this sounds like a movie. It's supposed to be a documentary, but I don't know, whatever. Visually, you can see it. But shout out to people like Nico who are like, okay, you have no money. We're going to go on a grant. We're going to do this grant thing, and I'm going to help you make this right. But that's the whole thing. He has no idea what Chicano lifestyle is here in Kansas City. He just knows and trusts that it needs to be told.
That's right.
And if he's the only one with access as a person of color to take this on, then he's going to do it. Yep. Because I will tell you, Stephenie, I have not found people in the Latino community to be able to do this, help me with this. And I've tried and I've reached out, and it's just like, for whatever reason, and people just can't sometimes, but just shout out to Nico. Thank you for mentioning his name, because
that makes me so happy.
We love Nico and Sophia. They are doing amazing work. But when we talk about this, what I'm really interested in also, and I was just talking to Rashida Phillips. Shout out to Rashida Phillips.
Yeah.
This is a shout out show. But this is good though, because we have to say their names. Yes. We have to say the people's names that are doing great things. Rashida Phillips over at the American Jazz Museum. She's the new executive director. Her and other cultural arts center leaders are coming together for this arts consortium.
Yes.
And Deanna, I shared your name with them.
Yes.
I was like, you have to get with Deanna and all the work that she's doing with the Chicano or Latino Arts Foundation, and really begin. And then it also makes me think about the power that can possibly happen between the group and Natasha Elskari and Warren Stiles, and what they're doing at the Black Art Gallery space. And so what are those opportunities that are already happening?
Yeah.
How can they come together and create opportunities for understanding and greatness?
And
so
collaboration.
And collaboration.
Into unity and togetherness.
Yeah.
And to Lucero's point earlier, it doesn't. We don't necessarily have to have the same struggles or the same strife, but we can support each other.
That's
we can
right.
always support each other.
Solidarity just requires connection.
That's right.
That's
And a lot of the time, I think the mindset is that, like, again, I mean, you don't have to be an educated person. You don't have to have gone to college. You don't have to have like a sociology degree or anything like that to know that there is a higher thing. There's a higher kind of level that is only able to exist if everybody at the bottom is apart from each other. Everybody is divided. Everybody is not realizing that the fight isn't between each other. The fight is with the person up there, with the people, with the structures, with the systems. And so it's like we have to ingrain it in our minds that like somebody else's success, no matter the color of your skin, the socioeconomic status, the gender, is not your failure.
Right.
So this is not your failure. And I think that's something that it's hard, because even as like specifically, I think just as as an immigrant myself, I was born in Mexico, and my mom and I came to this country when I was younger. Knowing that in and of itself already sets us apart from like people like Diana who were born here and, you know, have that privilege from a young age. It's like, well, we have to work 10 times harder to get like what this person was just born with and was able to have, even though we have the same last name or something like that. But it's like, that doesn't minimize anybody else's struggle. It doesn't make you more sufferable than anybody else or anything like that. It's like, no, you know, we all have a similar struggle. We all have a similar want and need to do better and to lift each other up. So it's why not start with ourselves and then open that up to everybody else. Because if we're keeping it, you know, of course, and I'll be the first to say it's very difficult, especially when you've birthed it and it's an organization or it's a company or it's a restaurant or anything, and you're like, this is my baby. How am I going to give this up to the world that's being vulnerable? And that's what we need. We need more vulnerability and more understanding that people want to help. Not everybody's out to get you. Yep. There are people who want to see you fall. That's their business. You know, that's their business. But business is, you know, our business is helping each other out, is unifying the Black and Brown community, is unifying our voices, unifying our understanding and our knowledge. Because in the end, once we do that, we realize we're not that different. We're all fighting for the same thing in the end, and we have to redirect our efforts and our kind of like power struggles and stereotypes that we have towards each other, towards the actual problem, which are the systems and institutions that are in place that keep us in this kind of like low profile, not really talking to each other. Because that's what I'm going to just put it as like, I'm going to say all of it is like the man. That is like what the man wants, is to not have anybody talk to each other, to keep all of this knowledge under a rock, and have everybody just believe that whatever they're suffering through it alone. It's like, no, it's actually a global pandemic. Poverty is a thing. The school to prison pipeline is very much rampant in our American school system. So, yep.
Stephenie and Rodney, I want to ask you something real quick, because I had Eric Arazo on our show. I think it was last night, and he was from California. He, you know, has been in gangs and decided, you know, to come to Kansas City and make a whole new life. Became an educator, went to school, and is now bringing up, you know, the kids in the Olathe school district. He actually created a lowrider bike system to where it's like, you know, you can do this amazing work here and kind of engage in this passion of the kids in order for them to continue their education and to build up their education alongside knowing that they're also working on passion things as well. So it's just been, he has 100% graduation rate. I mean, he is phenomenal. But my question is in regards to how do we begin to remove the gatekeepers at the top to where we are building our own businesses, not-for-profits, educational systems for us, by us here in Kansas City? I know that's how do we start breaking that system?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say by doing exactly what Brother Eric is doing. Yes. I mean, you know, it is not waiting on permission and not waiting to be invited to the tables that have traditionally held the power, and saying, this is what is needed. I mean, Lucero, what you were talking about, that energy and that mindset, that third choice thinking is what we have to nurture. And so when someone like Eric, as you have described him, can get nurtured in the direction that he's going, as Angela Davis said, as he's walking in the direction of freedom, how can we as a community support and nurture that? Because then that way, as he can continue to be focused on what he's doing, because as a community, we're supporting him, then he's not getting discouraged or becoming downtrodden by what is not happening or the barriers that are getting in the way of that type of impactful program that makes him say, oh man, this is not working. I need to go get what they have. Because when we just begin to be focused on getting what they have, then it takes us off of the focus of doing what we need for one another. And so that's one thing, us being very focused and not becoming disillusioned by needing to have these other things. Now, if you want to have a house, wherever you want to have a house, that's your business. But if you're doing that to distance yourself away from the people who are like you because you're trying to run away from that, then that's the mindset that we want. But I also believe that every good place you go, you belong. So I believe that we belong anywhere and everywhere, that there's not just one place, one area that we have to be relegated to, but we have to always understand our why. And I think the point about the gatekeepers, gatekeepers are not just people who keep things out. Gatekeepers can also let things come in.
Because the gate swings both ways.
That's right. Gate swings both ways. And so how do we, and I think that's why this work of creating common language and shared perspective is so important, because, and this is also steeped in hopefulness, right? We are hopeful people. We do this because we are hopeful that things can change and will change. But there is a time that you just got to knock down the damn door or you just got to totally disrupt it. And sometimes you do have to just burn it down, right? And so it takes all of those approaches to produce change. It doesn't have to be one way. And I think when we start measuring and trying to, and we get distracted by saying what other people are doing is no good, then it takes us off the focus of really what we've been ordained to do. So I think that we have to really be obedient to what has been deposited, what has been poured into us, and be responsible for that thing. We all have a role. I love what you said, Lucero, when you were saying that someone's success does not mean that's your failure. And so often we get distracted by what our fellow woman is doing, that we end up putting our energy into. See, she thinks she all that. And it's like, let her do that. And you figure out what you need to do. But, but that is why we have to work on ourselves. All of this work is so introspective. It is such a self-reflection project. Because if I'm walking around hurt and dealing with such deep brokenness, then when I see somebody shining, it hurts my eyes so much that what the pain that I'm feeling, it just triggers hurt and pain all over me, right? So how can I heal myself? How can I work on the things that have broken my heart? And this is, once again, the power of community. Community heals hearts, right? Community covers isolation. Community helps transform the me syndrome, where we just continue to center ourselves in such a way that it chokes out everyone else. So that's my thought about it.
And we have to also understand that we're gatekeepers, because Deanna, you're a gatekeeper.
That's right.
You have your own podcast. You have your own show. You know what I mean? So
Edgar reminds me of that all the time.
You are a gatekeeper.
And you letting us in.
You letting us in. Dan just popped up earlier. Dan's a gatekeeper.
He's a gatekeeper. Sharon, gatekeeper.
We have to understand that we're gatekeepers. You know what I mean? Stephenie asked me years ago one night, she was one of these philosophical conversations, and she said, "What do you want out of life, babe? What do you want?" Like, when she asked me like that, I thought she was talking about what I want to eat. She's like, "No, what out of life?" You know what I mean? And it took me a couple of days to answer the question, but I came to the conclusion that I want more. I want to influence on my own life outcomes. I want to dictate the influence. I want to dictate the outcomes of my own life. I'm not sitting around on my knees begging for somebody else to give me something. You know what I mean? Like James Brown's song said, "Don't give me nothing. Open the door, I'll get it for myself. But just don't get in my way.
Yeah, don't get
in my way. And so that's what we have to be, and we have to recognize that we are indeed gatekeepers, and it's our job to open the gate for those that need to get in, because historically the systems, Lucero, have been opening gates for themselves and
locking them behind them.
I don't want your stuff. I don't want your stuff. But don't get in the way of an opportunity for me to get my stuff. I want the opportunity. You know, I think about that film that Nico made, and I'm thinking about Reverend Hartsfield saying, I don't want to be white. I don't want to be what you doing. I don't want your house. I don't want your cars. I just want the opportunity to get whatever it is I want.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I think that we are examples of that.
So you're a gatekeeper. We're a gatekeeper. We gatekeepers.
Absolutely.
So let's keep the gate swinging.
Yeah. And so, you know, just real quickly, I just want to say, Irene's here. Yay. Oh my God. Irene, we talked about you. Probably heard your ears ringing. Bless you, Irene. We love you. Phenomenal woman. Real quick, Stephenie and Ronnie, one thing I want to do mention, because this does happen to a lot of people that I know that are in the Latino community, and it is just something, and Dan Smith and I have talked about this a lot too, and Edgar. We come from a place of humility, like being humble, right? You grow up, you be humble, you do your work, and that's it. You keep your mouth shut and you just keep moving on. You help the people behind you and everything. And so I think when you do say, like, I'm a gatekeeper, and Edgar's always telling me, you have access now. You are the one providing the access. Yeah. You're no longer that person needing the access. And that mindset, like you're saying, is so hard to change. And I think too, it's because the people that are in my community that are around me, even my family, for their best intentions, you know, they're trying to keep me on the ground. They're just like, stop. Like this blue check mark I got on Instagram, like for me, I was like, I worked hard for that damn check mark. Like they did not give that to me after Queer Eye. They made me work for that damn thing. And I was like, I got it. And everybody's like, and you're just mom. I'm like, damn, can I have 5 minutes?
Right.
So And so I think it's just that whole thing of, I love my family and my community for ensuring that we are just doing the work and amazingness. But I think at the same point, we forget that we do have these access and privileges that we need to ensure we are saying we have, so that way we are ensuring we're opening the door and giving those access points to the people that were in my space, you know, now, like that I was 10 years ago, that Irene opened the door for me. And I think it's just that mindset. Like you said, I'm so excited to get a part of your training, because I need to change my mindset, because I'm only hurting the people that I'm trying to support all the time.
Yeah, I look at it this way. And I was just having this conversation with Stephenie earlier today. I'm working on being the person that I did when I was younger.
Yeah, we were talking about that because I felt like I had so many people pour into me.
Yeah,
and it has shaped me and how I, you know, what my hope is to be. And I'm really grateful, because the people that I feel like, and I've been honored to pour into, they let me know, hey, you know, I appreciate. So it has been reaffirming. But one of the things, Deanna, that you said that about family, and sometimes our family does a really great job of grounding us. I think
That's a good way to put that.
Yeah, I think some of that though is also steeped in not in abandonment, and not in them not wanting you, us, whoever to leave them, right? So it is steeped in that being a trigger for abandonment. And I'm not saying that just to excuse the behavior,
to provide perspective and understanding.
Yeah, to provide perhaps another way of thinking about it, because for some, when family members have attained a certain level of success, it has felt like abandonment.
Yes.
And so how can we continue? And you're demonstrating it now, lifting as we climb.
That's right.
So I love even what you're doing in this demonstration with Lucero, and bringing her on, because everything you said is true. She has something to say, And so once again, you opened up that gate.
And you bring somebody else
and you're
along.
bringing her in.
Yes.
And so good job, gatekeeper.
Right.
It becomes a cycle, and that's a cycle that we want to keep and that we do not want to break, that we want to maintain, because a lot of the times I feel like we're stuck with like in our mindset just breaking cycles, breaking this, breaking that, but it's like, hold on, there's actually some good things that are happening that I have to happen. Let's keep those, let's harness those, and let's tend to them. And so knowing that we're kind of coming to almost the end of our time.
I know.
I would really just love to ask and just for you kind of like to part some knowledge on onto the rest of our listeners. Knowing maybe that so everybody who's listening is coming from a different space, coming on a different part of their journey with racial equity, with racial awareness for themselves and for everybody else. One, when is the next REI training so that people can kind of just like know when that is? And two, what is one tangible, maybe like short-term thing that allies and other people of color, non-white and white, can do to kind of begin begin their like journey of dismantling all of these stereotypes and just all of these like inequities that they have kind of been like fostered to believe. Yeah.
One of my favorite writers today is a historian by the name of Ibram X. Kendi. Mm-hmm. And in his book, he talks about, and he phrases it this way. He said, the only thing wrong with Black and brown people is some of us believe there's something wrong with us.
That's right. And the
only thing extraordinary about white people is some of them that believe that there's something extraordinary. So I guess in Rodney's words, for our allies, our white allies who are watching, raise kids who understand that they're not superior because they're white. And for our Black and brown families who are watching, raise kids who understand that they're not inferior because they're Black and brown. You know what I mean? Because far too many of us buy into that.
That's right.
This notion subconsciously, implicitly, that we are inferior. Like we often say, this notion of white supremacy. White supremacy
equal opportunity.
It's an equal opportunity employer. It has been employing a lot of people who believe that white people are superior.
And what is white supremacy? What do we mean? And how does Robin DiAngelo talk about white supremacy? It promotes the idea that whiteness is the ideal of humanity.
Yeah.
And we can become believers and we can begin to promote that idea as well. So that's what we mean when we say it's an equal opportunity employer.
Yeah.
So not just white people promote white supremacy beliefs and thinking. We can too. So we have to pause and we have to question and we have to stop ourselves and we have to ask ourselves, what are the racial implications of the decisions that I am making? All of us have to ask ourselves those questions. And one thing that I would share is for us to really do the work of figuring out, are we leaning more towards mercy or justice? And how are we going to move to being a more just mercy type mindset? So for instance, what I mean by mercy for so many of us, and in particular, our white allies, our white people, are so much filled with guilt because of, once you begin to get exposed to this and you become guilty, or you begin to feel guilty. But when you are only doing things to address your guilt, then you are still centering yourself as a white person.
Yes.
And so what happens? So how much do you do until you say, oh, okay, I feel better about myself. And then do you stop?
Well,
that's why it can't be promoted. The actions, the work can't be driven from your feelings of guilt.
Yeah.
It has to be this greater commitment to justice, this greater commitment to really transforming and changing the systems.
Yes.
And so that is very important. And oftentimes what mercy does, it gets us to some of the beginning of the acts, right? We see a hungry person, and so we make a food basket. But how do we commit ourselves to really doing the work to ensuring that people are hungry no more? That's justice, right? And so how do we move ourselves? How do we move and be responsible for that work? Because it does take work.
Yes.
And that's really, you know, for me, the parting statement is that we all have our work to do. And so we have to figure out what is that work, and then how does that work evolve as we evolve?
Right.
Because it's a journey and it never ends. But we've got to continue to shape our eyes to be able to call out white supremacy, and we have to begin to do the work to begin to dismantle these systems, especially in our workspaces and in our communities. And then we got to put our money where our mouth is and support Black and brown organizations and businesses that are doing great things.
Yes.
And we got to put our money where our mouth is and hope these corporations and companies are putting their money where their mouth is as well.
Yeah. It's okay to love yourself.
It's okay to love yourself. Matter of fact, it is required.
And love yourself.
That's right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Being pro-Black, being pro-brown doesn't mean you have to be anti-white.
No, not at all. And I just have to tell you guys, almost, I hate crying on this show, but I feel like I cry way too much on every freaking one I do. But you hit home when you said the part of the Black and brown just continue to think that they're not worthy of it, you know, just because that's what you get ingrained, but you get ingrained in it in a way that it's not there, like nobody's telling you that, but it's just something that's just always there in the back of your brain. And right away, I just thought about my own kids, and I'm like, my God, you know, I don't want them to ever feel that way. Like, I'm trying to ensure they're doing the opposite. But if I'm not even modeling myself, you know, I think I thought I was modeling myself as being that, you know, let's break all the gates. Well, God, I'm half a gate, you know. It's like you guys just made me aware that, like, this podcast right here just made me aware of the privileges I have that I need to ensure that I'm speaking out on, and really that's going to be my to-do after this, is to ensure when I talk to my community and the people and even my own children, to let them know that I have this access and I have these privileges, and I am going to ensure that you're gaining all of that, because I needed me 10 years ago. Yeah. And now I have me, and I got to give it back. So you guys are making me cry.
Yes, absolutely.
Your mind is valuable, your body is valuable, your thoughts are valuable, you are valuable.
Your dreams.
And we've got to know that. We've got to understand our value.
Yeah, absolutely. That's powerful.
That's enough.
Yeah. Like I said last time, you know, healing is not linear. It's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen at its time. And with your mindset of just, I need to do this and I need to recognize this, the awareness is already there. You're like more than halfway there. Now you just have to like continue to act on it, but then also have grace on yourself to know that like not every day is going to be like 100%, and not every day is going to be a success. There might be some times where it's like you're in this fight and it's continuous, and just like knowing that like, okay, like I've had my fight maybe exclusive to like one specific group. So now I'm more aware of all these other groups that also need help and that I can use. So like, let's just keep opening and opening and opening with like wider arms, and just like welcoming everything else, and opening up your heart and your mind to the rest of the community. And therefore it's like, you're going to continue just like being great. And I love you, Diana, and you know that I've told you many times that I look up to you, which is when I first met you. So I was there. So yes. I'm thankful for Stephenie and Rodney for just being on Diana's show, and for Diana asking me to co-host and kind of just putting out that bat signal there of just, we need more co-hosts, we need to diversify it. So this is where it starts, and I know that it doesn't end here, and that's super important to know. This is just the beginning, and the conversations need to continue. The conversations then need to be turned into actions, and then actions need to be sustained. So let's
you go, Lucero. See, this is why you need to be on these podcasts. What my goal is that everybody has their own podcast by the end of this freaking year or next year.
Okay, ladies, I need you to take a picture. Ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
I love it. Oh my gosh, you all are amazing. I'm so glad that I got to talk to both you, Stephenie, Rodney, and Lucero, bringing those amazing tidbits and questions to the table. This is why you are here. And Rodney and Stephenie, we know we're going to bring you back because we have a lot of conversation to go. And I know I'm not going to keep you till 10 o'clock at night, although I would keep you here that whole time. So I'm so glad that you gave shout outs to everybody in the community that deserves a shout outs. I know we missed a ton of people, but just hearing their names on here and to know that that's going to be even more people are going to hear them. Hopefully you reach out, ask about these people. If you don't remember what the names were, reach out to us. We will share, and just remember to keep reaching back to get those people on those platforms, panels, wherever, just, conversations. And thank you, Stephenie and Rodney, for inviting us to your platforms, and you're always welcome to our platforms too. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you all so much. I hope you all have a great holiday weekend. Break off some time. Bye.